Hello and welcome back to the Navy Knitters podcast. My name is Leontine, I'm the face behind the Navy Knitter and I share all kind of knitting adventures, crafty stuff and a little bit of Navy life here and there. You haven't seen me in a while and I'm having to get back into the hang of filming myself. In my last video, I was still sitting in the garden enjoying the sunshine and sharing about my Cara Wrap test knit and everything. And a little did I know that my entire world would shatter only 2.5 weeks later. It was on Wednesday, October 9th, that my dear love, my husband, suddenly and really all of a sudden passed away at night. He was feeling a little under the weather for a few days, and like we all did, like the autumn bug that everybody had. Only in his case, it turned out that he had an atypical pneumonia or walking pneumonia, and he didn't have any symptoms at all. He didn't even have a fever or anything, and that turned into a sepsis, and that eventually led to his death. And yeah, that was a shock, to say the least. But yeah, I wouldn't say we have moved on since then, but let's say we invited color back into our life and the kids and me are doing fine. And I can generally say we're okay now. We still miss him every single day, every single minute, but we don't see in black and white. We see back in color, and yeah, we have good loves and we have lovely friends around us. So that's what kept me from filming for a long time. I have been knitting a lot because knitting really helped me a lot. Take breaks and take my time outs and everything, because what you don't know is that all of a sudden, with unimaginable pain you feel, you also get sucked into this whirlwind of stuff you have to deal with. The first week, all kinds of stuff for the funeral that has to be done, and that has to be legal stuff that has to be done, and you're just, sucked into it, and there's no way out. Like, you're in this maelstrom of stuff, and then after the funeral, all of a sudden it gets quiet. Too quiet. My kids both made the decision, they made the decision every single day, again and again, but they wanted to continue just to go to school, be with their friends, and having a life as close to normal, as close as before as possible. I have the best boss in the world. He gave me all the time, and he specifically spelled out for me that he did not expect me anywhere near the office, even before January. So I had all the time to do the stuff, do all the admin, and to recover, and just be, let's say. And something I did not expect at all, and at some point I would wish you could all experience it, and the downside is, for you to experience it, it would mean that you yourself experience a loss or some life-altering moment. But the warmth and love and compassion I got throughout the entire knitting community, both national and international, was overwhelming. It was so incredible. I chose to put a post up on my Instagram to let people know what happened. And I had a cascade of cards fluttering in, DMs, lovely messages, hearts. It was amazing. It was a wonderful experience, even in those dark times. And that's what's in the end made me extremely grateful and wanting to get back on, in front of the camera, not behind, and express my gratitude to you all. And one thing, I wanted to go to a knitters meetup organized by the lovely CreaBea in the Netherlands. And I've been looking forward to this meetup. It was supposed to be on a Saturday in the central part of the country. And of course I couldn't go or didn't want to go. And when they had this meeting with all the lovely crafters, they decided that if I could not come to the meeting would come to me. So they packed this box and put all kinds of lovely stuff in there. I had cards, I had sweets, I had goodies, I had a book, a collection of poems somebody actually wrote. I had this lovely artwork with all tiny little dots, and it's made by somebody who also lost her husband recently, and she published a book with all kinds of stuff you can do with these little dots. And yeah, she sent this to me, and somebody also sent me, and this was the most amazing thing, a project bag with swans on. There's a lot of swans and one black swan. And I'd like to tell you a story why these swans are so important to me now. When my husband and I got married 12 years ago, we just had our wedding anniversary on October 6th. When we got married, we both wrote our own vows. And a piece he wrote, or he said to me, was from this book. It's The Black Swan by Nessim Nicholas Taleb, and it got quoted a lot during COVID. And it's actually from the financial, it has a financial background. It's called The Black Swan, The Impact of the Highly Improbable. You wouldn't actually say it's a romantic story or whatever, but for almost all our wedding anniversaries, I posted a piece on Instagram about the Black Swan because it was part of his vows to me, and I want to share it with you. So this comes from the prologue of the book. Before the discovery of Australia, people in the old world were convinced that all swans were white, an unsaleable belief as it seemed completely confirmed by empirical evidence. The sighting of the first black swan illustrates a severe limitation to our learning from observations, our experience, and the fragility of our knowledge. One single observation can invalidate a general statement derived from millennia of confirmatory sightings of millions of white swan. All you need is one single black bird. And as it goes, I was his black bird, his black swan. Yeah, we had our wedding anniversary only 3 days before he passed away. And I decided that I wanted to speak at the funeral. And it was a huge funeral, as a lot of Navy and defense colleagues came to pay their respects. And I did want to speak myself, but I knew that I couldn't. Not in front of all those hundreds of people. And so ever the YouTuber and ever the creative person, I wrote a letter to my love. And I recorded myself reading it. Oh, by the way, I will not say sorry for my emotions and for expressing them. That's something I learned really quickly. So if it makes you feel uncomfortable, I do apologize for that, but you will never hear me say sorry for getting emotional on here, ever. I wanted to speak at the funeral. I wanted to speak in person. So I wrote Joost a letter and I read it, recorded it, put a nice music under it and had it play at the funeral. And I referenced to the black swan as I was his black swan. And by passing on, he became mine. And let me read on what they say about black swan events, or what Nicholas Nessim Taleb says. A black swan is an event with the following 3 attributes. First, it is an outlier, as it lies outside the realm of regular expectations, because nothing in the past can convincingly point to its possibility. Second, it carries an extreme impact. And third, In spite of its outlier status, human nature makes us concoct explanations for the occurrence after the fact, making it explainable and predictable. Yeah, and a huge impact it had. So not only was I his black swan, but he became mine. Yeah, and well, I posted this on our wedding day, and a lovely viewer who did not know about the importance of the black swan and that it kind of, yeah, made the circle round again, and it came back to it at his funeral. But she sent me this lovely bag, and without even knowing what it meant to me. And this, yeah, these acts of kindness really are so heartwarming, and you cannot express how much it means to me and how much there is a community, even only if you communicate via digital means and by sending thumbs up under a YouTube video or the odd comment here and there. So yeah, if you ever find yourself doubting if there's still good in people, yes, there is. I know about it. So yeah, and during this period, knitting is one thing that really helped me go through, I will never say go through grief, but accept grief. As the doctor pointed out, grieving feels like running a marathon every day without any training. And believe it or not, I ran a marathon, and I found the marathon way easier than having to live with grief every single day, especially in the beginning, in the first weeks. So I had to take a lot of timeouts and watch my energy, which was already very low. And knitting really helped me to sit down for an hour, have some coffee, knit, watch YouTubes, other vloggers or other knitters on YouTube, and just escape for an hour or two into this knitting world and into the handicraft community, where everything still seemed to be okay and was untouched. Yeah, and so I knitted a lot. And yeah, well, to get back into it, let's go back to where I finished off. In my last video, I was knitting on the Cara Wrap, and this has become a very special knit for me. As you might remember, I made it in the sparkly yarn. Oh, did I see a hole? No. I made it in a sparkly yarn. This is drops air together with, or held together. Oh, there's a hole in here. It's a thin thread though. Drops air in black together with the Go Handmade, some kind of sparkly stuff. And it turned out beautiful. You see the sparkle? And I had to speed knit because I wanted to wear this for my honey's funeral. And I really had to put some work into it, but I managed it and I wore it proudly that day. And I will put in a video of me wearing it because I'm not going to take this all off. But yeah, this has become a very special garment for me. I also wore it at Christmas, that was the original intention of wearing this at Christmas, which I also did. And yeah, I can only recommend the pattern. I know I'm a bit late because there have been many more that the CreaBea published, but if you're looking for a wrap that you can adjust for your bust and your waist shape, she's your go-to girl. Because usually when I make wraps or anything and I have to measure my bust, I have a double D cup or something. I don't know the conversion into the English or American system, but usually when you measure your bust width, that would mean that the garment overall is way too big for me. So my bust would fit into it, but the rest would be kind of like hanging. And she has this lovely bust adjustments that you can just knit it in a fitted way and just have more fabric to cover your bust. And also there's, in this version I made, there's waist shaping so that it nicely follows your curves, let's say. And it's really great. So this is my very special funeral Cara Wrap. And it was my first finished object after the day. And then I decided to make like smaller projects because it's easier to focus on than one big one. But the only big one and the finished one is the one I'm wearing. This is the main vest, and it's, you can't see it, but it's all the way with by Clarissa Schellung. It's a German designer, and I had seen this like 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago on Instagram when she first published it, and I wanted to have it. It was love at first sight with the pattern. And now I decided once I finished the Cara Wrap that I wanted to make this to wear on a knitting festival that took place in November in the Netherlands. It was Knit to Pearl to Festival. You might have heard Knitting Traditions tell about it, or Jana from Finnish Knitting Stories, and Lerke from Fiber Tales. They all three attended the festival as special guests. So it was really, really lovely, and also lovely to meet them in person and to have a good chat. And I had tickets to go to the festival for ages. Like the first moment Sarah from It Is a Sarah, who organized the whole event, announced that she was organizing the festival, I was one of the first ones to buy a ticket. And I did not know if I wanted to go or did not want to go, since everything had happened, because most of the people attending the festival knew about me and my situation. And it was a very big step for me to go back out into the open and to go somewhere where I would meet lots of people and all knowing about me. And I was a bit hesitant of their reaction towards me. So within the community, a big part of the community around It Is a Sarah, she also has like the paid membership community stuff. So I made a post there asking people to just see me and not as the grieving widow, because it was my first big outing and I wanted to enjoy the day and just being me and my knits. And I didn't say that people were not allowed to come up to me, but I was a little afraid of being, well, overwhelmed by people, let's say. So I asked them kindly to keep their gestures small and not corner me in. So I did not want to be confronted with my loss the entire day. I mean, it's omnipresent, always, every single second. But I was there to enjoy the community and to enjoy yarns and knitting. And I wanted that to be the focus and not my loss. And people were so beyond kind and loving and respectful. And I had the very best day. And I'm very glad I went and that I got to be part of it. Also, so I decided, because I wanted to go to K2P2, to the Knit to Pearl to Festival. I wanted a special garment to make, but I was a little late starting it. But all of a sudden, I found myself with lots of time on hand because I did not have to go to work or anything. And so I ordered the yarn for this. I used Terrerum Natura Gilead in the color Poivre et Sel. It's the original yarn. Only in her version, she made it with a kid silk by Knitting for Olive, and the color she used was sold out everywhere. So I just looked at the Terrerum Natura website and I saw that they also had a mohair. I think it is called Berenice. And I took that one and ordered it together with the Gilead. So I had a nice package from France that came. And well, it took me a while to knit this, but it's one of my favorite garments ever since. So it was kind of hard to place the buttons in the right way because I only blocked it later. I didn't even have time to block it. I just literally finished it the night before the K2P2 festival and I wore it that day. But it's lovely. It's nice and warm and snuggly, and yeah, it's really great. Although the pattern is not for beginners, I would say, or at least it's not. She has not written the instructions in a way that's very compatible for me. Let's say it that way. So I struggled a bit, but the result is amazing, and I wore this to K2P2. So this also will forever be my memory piece. And then I did a lot of smaller projects. A very dear friend of mine who also guided and helped me through the first days after Joost passed away. And she wanted to have kind of a snood hood balaclava thing she saw on, I don't know, on the socials. So she posted me, she made a picture of it and asked me, like, can you make something like this? And it was a crochet item. And I said, yeah, sure, just give me your yarn choice, a color, and I will figure it out. And I made her this contraption, and she's very happy with it. So that was one of the smaller projects, and it was on huge needles. And I found out that I do actually not like knitting with needle sizes 7 or up. But yeah, so that was one thing that I made in between. Then I made 2 pairs of gloves, the Tova Votter by Sandnes Garn, and I also can only show you a picture because my daughter is wearing them today. She takes the bike to go to school and come back. She's 11 and a half now, and she goes in every kind of weather together with a friend from down the street. And she told me that her Tova Votter are actually the best mittens she's ever had because they are felted, and so they are absolutely windproof and rainproof, and it's her favorite to wear on the bike. And as it happens, I had some felting wool left in a kind of purplish grayish tone, and I made another pair for my sister-in-law, who also bikes a lot and also complains about cold fingers on her bike. So for Christmas, I got her a placeholder, and then later the pair of mittens also felted. And I will have to brush up my Revelry, but maybe I can put a translation in Revelry because it's a free pattern you can find online. And otherwise, just put your Google Translator over it and it will translate in any language you like, and it's quite accurate. At least the Dutch translation was. So it was easy enough to make the mittens. And then I had a few other small projects. I made some color work socks for my mom. I saw them at Charlotte Stone's Instagram, and we will go skiing together in February. So the kids and my parents. And since my parents love the mountains, I made her these color work socks. It took me a bit to get back into it, but I love color work. I completely forgot about how much I love it. And so I made her the socks, and there only one sock is a little bit too tight in the color work, so I have to figure out a way that I can either transplant a new cuff onto it or do something so she can get it over her heel more easily. And the second sock was already way better with tension, but she loves her socks. And what else did I make? When I went to the handwerkdagen, I bought a skein of yarn at Apmezga, and I was looking for a skein to make a Sophie Scarf that would fit my uniform. So this kind of reflects the colors in my work uniform. So whenever I have a cold or for the next cold season, I can at least have something warm around my neck. I know I'm actually not supposed to add anything to the uniform, but since I'm in the office and my office is frankly quite cold, they will forgive me if I put this on. At least it's in the right color. And I've been loving this. I told myself that I need to wear more like pops of color in the form of scarves and stuff. So yeah, this is only a beginning. And yeah, after finishing these projects and all the smaller stuff, after Christmas and between Christmas and New Year, I went to see a very dear friend of us and his wife, who came over from New York and they came over to Cologne. So I took the train to Cologne to spend some quality time with them. I don't know if you're watching, but you know, you know you are. It was lovely, and I decided to go by train because actually the train connection to Cologne is amazing. You only have to do 1 or 2 stopovers and you get lots of knitting time without having to drive all the way. So I was looking for a pattern that I could make for about 5 hours back and forth in the train. And I came up with the Midland neck by Laura Penrose. And I was rummaging through yarn. She has been wearing a pink version in her videos and in her Vlogmas videos. And I just fell in love with it. And I do actually still have some skeins of acrylic yarn lying in the garage. But that was for a kind of a project my daughter wanted to do. And I don't know why I bought them. years ago, but they're still lying there, and from time to time I was looking at it, and the color is perfect, but I just could not get myself to knit and eventually wear acrylic yarn around my neck. May have become a yarn snob, but yeah, I would miss the quality of the warming quality of the wool. So in the end, I rummaged through my stash, and of course I found something. So I decided to make it in this yarn. This is, I don't know if you can see, this is a very like icy blue, and it's a double Sunday that I once bought in Oslo. And it was discounted yarn. It's a heavily discounted, so about 6 or 7 skeins. And never knew what to make with it, but it was perfect for the Midland neck, or the Dickie as she calls it. And yeah, so you start knitting it from the side. Laura just released the Midland cardigan, which is a similar construction because you knit it sideways instead of knitting it top down or bottom up. So you start at the side and you increase and decrease, and then you have the front and the back, and you have shoulder shaping in there. So you have these nice little caps, and there's this lovely detail on the back. You see here, this is just off the shoulder. And I can put it on, but I have a double collar, so you won't see it like right. And it is, you see this with these shoulder caps, that's a very silly construction. But even with this collar under it, it's okay. But if I would not have this collar, I think my collar turned out too big for my liking. See, if I want to put my coat over it or something, then it's still too open for me. So I just kept it intact for you to show you on here. And I think the next project I will start is actually take off this ribbing and make this way smaller so that it fits snugly around my neck, because this is a piece that is so lovely to wear just around the house over a shirt or a long sleeve, and then this adds enough warmth to be very cozy and snuggly. The yarn is very soft, but it does grow a lot, and I did not take that into account. I didn't even swatch for this, so it's just an accessory. But the neck is, you see, for my liking, it's too wide, so I will redo this one and have a lot of fun with this piece. And well, it took me 2 train rides and maybe an evening or 2. And yeah, it's a lovely piece. And then I was thinking of casting on, but I did not cast on something special for my birthday. My birthday is December 30th. But I did a New Year's cast on. And earlier when I was recording the Dutch version of my vlog, I was thinking, I know I cast something on, especially on New Year's Eve, but I cannot find it anywhere. And that's because I'm wearing it. I made myself, let me show you, a pair of, focus, Majas Mamelucker, and these are woolen underpants. And I got the idea a while back. I saw them on Instagram with somebody, and whenever I get my period or whenever I work out or whatever, my back is kind of a weak spot, let's say, a spot I have to put some training into. So whenever my muscles are tense in my lower back, I wanted something woolly to cover it and to keep it warm. And I thought this was the ideal way, as it has ribbing that is, oh, focus, hello. Ribbing that is folded double here. And I thought this would be ideal if I raise it a bit to cover my lower back and to keep it nice and snugly. And also the front part, of course, if I'm having periods. And the lovely Marlene from Sunny Knit inspired me to make them, because she was in one of her vlogs, she was talking about making a period pullover, like a nice oversized warm woolly pullover for those days that you feel just a kind of blah off and you just want something cozy and warmy around you. And I thought, yeah, I want the same idea, only not as a pullover, but as an undergarment. And so I knit it, and it's a free pattern that you can find on the sites of Jerbo, which you read like that. And it's by, I think she's called Maja Karlsson. Majas Mamelucker. Yeah, Maja Karlsson. And it's a free pattern. She has one size and she has explanation on how to adapt it to your size. I thought I had to make it a little bigger, so I added 2 times 4 stitches on either side. In the end, now I have it on. It wouldn't have been necessary because I can show you on the picture. You have ribbing on the side of your legs and you just increase or decrease the amount of stitches you have in between. And so I increased by 4 stitches on the front and 4 stitches on the back, which gives you 2 extra centimeters more or less. But in the end, it wouldn't have been necessary. But because there's ribbing, it kind of, well, makes it stretchy. It stretches always. So this is pretty stretchy and there would have been no need to actually put in the extra stitches. Yeah, but there's a lot of, you can find a lot of comments on Ravelry on the projects and how to adjust it to your size or make longer legs or raise the ribbing part. I raised it about 5 centimeters to really cover my lower back. And I will put in some footage of me wearing it because it is so comfy. And I'm wearing a pair of jeans now that's a little on the bigger side and it's a little baggy, lost some weight, but I fit it under it easily. And as there's a lot of ladies in the knitting community here that are fond of wearing skirts and dresses, this is the ideal piece to wear in the wintertime over your, over your tights or under a skirt or something, just to keep your lady parts warm. So I can only recommend it. Maybe I'm even hosting or making videos how to knit one. I discovered videos on YouTube by a German lady, but they're like 6 or 7 years old. And I thought maybe it would be a nice one to actually guide you through knitting another pair. I used Svensk wool or that I bought from Eddna in, I have it here, in this gray color. It's like a natural, it's a rustic yarn. And you knit it on 2.25 millimeter needles, I think, but despite the size of the needles, it was a pretty quick knit. And I used a little less than 2 skeins. So, and I saw somebody who made it in BC Garn. So I could also imagine myself making a colored pair and maybe filming it for anybody who wants to knit along for the rest of the winter and spring, maybe. And I also wanted the pants to be ready before we go on our skiing vacation because I can imagine that being really toasty around your buttocks. Yeah. Then so that was my New Year's cast on and I cast it off the day before yesterday. So a little less than a month knitting on my underpants. And yeah, that was actually all. That was, oh no, I'm forgetting something. Another cast on that I did was because, let's go back to the beginning. As I mentioned, I went to the Knit to Quilter Festival and it was organized by the lovely Sarah from It Is a Sarah. And she has this online membership program that's both in Dutch and English. And how does she call it? Heart Jumping Friday, happiness, I don't know. But she does, it's a paid membership. And from all the lovely members, both Dutch and international, they did a collection. And at some day, the postman rang and I got this in a big box, in a cardboard box. And I opened it up and it was filled to the brim. Let me show you, sorry for the noise. It was filled with minis. So there is a whole, and there's also a whole lot of cards in there, but there's a whole bunch of all kinds of minis in here. I threaded them onto the barber cord, and my daughter made it into a fade. So she unwrapped them all, and we made a fade out of it. Let me show you. So you can see there's cards attached and stuff. This they were all sent to me as moral support and as a token of appreciation, and as to console me a bit and to wish as well. And with every single one I held in my hand, I had to cry for like an hour because I was so overwhelmed by all the kindness of people. And I decided, since another Dutch big knitter, Mirjam Molenbeek, she released a pattern for the past, present and future blanket. And I thought it was so fitting for the name of past, present and future that I wanted to knit all the lovely skeins that I got from people after our loss, to knit us into a blanket, and all the nice lovely memories we share and the moments we had. And this will become like a big cozy blanket. I want to have it finished on this on October 9th of this year. So I will take a year and I need to knit the entire bag of minis, all fingering weight. And hopefully we three can snuggle under a big blanket of love gifted to us from the community. So I started out I casted it on January 11th, 111. I keep seeing double numbers and angel numbers and everything. There's so many signs I get each and every day that it's kind of fun to look out for them. So this was a cast on January 11th. And I won't share the pattern, of course, but it's a paid pattern. You can find on Ravelry, but you increase and decrease at certain points, so you get this lovely chevron idea. I have it on a fairly short cable, but it should be about 1 meter 20, 1 meter 30 width. And I will just continue knitting until I have the last color. And I have all these mini skeins. Yesterday evening, I spent an hour of just making a magic yarn ball. It's a center pull. So I go from dark to brighter, and I just make magic knots and wound it up so I can continue knitting. And I'm now in my second color of probably about 30. So I have to knit on this quite a while. And I knit this on 2.75 mil needles. So I think this would give me a pretty nice fabric. Yeah, so this is my long-term whip that you will see here and there, but a very special for me this year. And what else? Well, I finished a lot of project actually. So I have my scarves, we have that. I had the stables knitting bag, which lived in my car. And I finished my yellow sock tube. I just have to bind off the stitches, and then I will cut it in half, put on the toes, and I don't know for who they are yet, probably for my daughter. And then I will knit in the heels. Also, I think I will use the same yarn or just do the heel in an orange or something. Don't know yet. So I have to cast on a new sock for in the car or the stables. And I have been knitting a lot on the project in my lovely swan bag. And that is my half and half triangles wrap. And I still have the stitch marker from last time I podcasted. So there's quite a lot. I finished the first color, I put in the second color. And now my camera says that the battery is almost gone. No, it's okay. And yeah, I'm 2/3 down the second color, and I keep it in one of my yarn cozies, the one I have in my Etsy shop. And you can see that even if I used up 2/3 of the skein yet, it's a center pull also, that it keeps the skein nicely in shape and it doesn't collapse on itself. So I can continue knitting almost till the last bit, and it won't unravel, it won't tangle. So that's why I'm so fond of my own yarn cozies and use them all the time. But yeah, this has seen quite some love in the meanwhile, and I'm loving the color. It's very spring-like and I just want to wear it. So this will get lots of love in the upcoming time. I put in some mistakes, as you see. You probably see it more on camera because I put in one row of stockinette somewhere randomly. But yeah, that's part of the process, and I just keep it in here. I won't change it. It's just some quirky thing I won't know and nobody will notice. Or even if you notice, too bad. That's just the artistic freedom that I gave myself. But I'm looking forward to wearing this. And this is made in Penrose whole linen quill, the original. But yeah, can't wait. And this is actually all that I've got on the needles that I'm working on. I have one whip in hibernation. I wanted to finish my festive yoke sweater that I started in 2023. But yeah, widow brain is really a thing. It's not only prego brain, but also widow brain. And I just couldn't wrap my head around doing color work for a sweater at all. So I was kind to myself and I just put it in hibernation. And now the goal is to have a finished festive yoke sweater by Christmas 2025. But that hasn't been touched yet. So we'll see about that. And then onto plans maybe, or acquisitions. I didn't buy that much, but let's start with acquisitions in January. As I really enjoyed making the colorwork socks for my mom. I gave myself a little birthday present, and this is the Joyful Colorwork Socks by Charlotte Stone. And not only do I love her patterns, but she also has like tips and tricks to make socks, to choosing yarn, and she even has a chapter in here to design your own colorwork socks. Oh, the birds are going mad in the garden, chasing each other around. Yeah, and some part I really enjoyed reading was on tension, because when I made the colorwork socks for my mom, which were also from a pattern from Charlotte Stone, I was really fiddling with catching the floats. And Charlotte Stone was in Fruity Knitting's podcast and did an interview there. And she actually explained that the Bible, the Vogue knitting book, says that you should only catch floats after about 2.5 centimeters. So which comes down to about every 9 or 10 stitches in fingering weight. So she does hardly catch floats in her socks. And she explains why. It's like, oh, this would have made it way more enjoyable to knit the socks if you don't have to catch floats like mad. Because I really caught my floats every like 3 stitches or 4 stitches. And that also made the sock pretty unstretchy, I must say. So I'm really looking forward to putting that into action and actually trying to make socks in colorwork without catching floats. So yeah. And the first one I'm going to make some for is also the reason why I bought some new yarn. As I mentioned, I went back to work in January, so after the holidays, and I have the best colleagues in the world and the best boss in the world. I can just come into work and work the hours that I think feel good. And whenever my battery's down or it's too much, because my husband used to work on the same in the same office. So actually the person who is now my boss, that used to be the position Joost was filling, and he was the predecessor of Joost in this position, and he worked with him for 3 years on that department. So everybody, all of my direct colleagues knew him really well. And that was kind of hard for me to go back to the office, because there would be so much to remember him. But on the other hand, it was just that knowing that he had 3 wonderful years at that office that really made it special to be able to work in the same place, stand at the same coffee machine and have chats over coffee at the same table. So I feel really connected to him when I'm in the office. And yeah, everybody is so incredibly respectful and helpful. So I can just put in some hours. Even on some days, it seems like I'm more into talking to people and having coffee with colleagues, not only from the department I work in now, but also from my other logistics branch colleagues of the entire Navy. Well, everybody knew well, everybody knew him and me. It's kind of a small navy we have. So a lot of it's social calls and people making sure I'm okay. And on some days it's a bit more work. We organized a NATO working group meeting in Amsterdam that just took place the past 2 weeks. And it was more like doing admin, getting conference fees, making receipts, answering questions for the participants. It was about 150, making sure the catering was there. So it was a bit behind the scenes party planning, which was pretty easygoing and not too difficult, not too, well, I could be hands-on and not too much in my head. And that was quite okay. And they gave me all the freedom to leave whenever my battery was down and whenever I had enough, or take a day off or whatever. So that was lovely to get back into the game and back into a rhythm of getting up at a certain, well, usually I get up to take the kids to school, but also getting dressed in uniform and getting back to, well, I would say being normal again, if you know what I mean. Yeah, but that was lovely. But since we were in Amsterdam, it's also about 45 minutes commute. So if I drive to Den Helder or Amsterdam, well, to Den Helder, I have a lot less traffic than to Amsterdam. And I had to be there pretty early. But yeah, since we were there, and I had never been to Stephen and Penelope, I had one afternoon that I was off work. I just took a biked into the city and went to Stephen and Penelope. And I had a quick look around. I had to feel all the scarves and I could look at everything and marvel at the yarns and the colors. And it was, of course, full of like knitting tourists. I was allowed to film, so I'm planning on doing another episode on yarn stores in the north of Holland. And so I just went in there, had a look and had a film and then went back again. And I went to a yarn store called The Afstap. And I had a lovely chat with the lady behind the counter. I think she's also the owner. I'm not sure. It's only, I think, a 10-minute walk from Stephen and Penelope. They have a whole different array of yarn. They had a lot of Marie Wollen knits, and they are amazing. I mean, she must be the queen of color work. That's wow. So I had a touch at all the lovely yarns and colors and stuff, and it was really lovely. And I decided not to leave without buying anything. I found it way easier to leave Stephen and Penelope without buying anything because he has his, well, customer base and he won't go bankrupt if you don't buy a 30 euro skein there. But I like to support these smaller independent yarn stores. So at the Afstap I bought these 3 skeins of Jabol from Lang Yarns, and this will be turned into Aagje socks by Mirjam Molenbeek for my son because he just loves blue and I want to give him an accent color in yellow. So this will be colorwork socks for him, because my son is the most knit-worthy person I know. He's now wearing my Alice Easter Bunny socks that are originally made for my daughter, that she wore, that went into the washing way too many times. They are kind of like grayish faded, and it's still his most favorite socks ever, even if they're kind of too small for him now. He wears them every day if he can. And yeah, I think he deserves another pair. So this will be for him. And because I have this one, I wouldn't say goal, I told myself that I needed more scarves to just give a pop of color to my outfits. And since I was in love with the pale pink, I bought myself one little skein of Cardiff Cashmere Classic in the faded pink, like a ballet pink. And this will be kind of a small scarf of some sorts, probably a Sophie. I do have another pattern from my Advent from Along avec Anna. There's also a little lacy scarflet in there. So either that one or just a plain Sophie because it's too easy to make. And then I can just put it under here and have this nice little pop of color. So yeah. And the other big plan, I'm forgetting one, is to make another big project. So I want to always have some socks, a small one and a big one on my needles, I think. And that's going to be the Marinera sweater by a designer from the yarn store in Portugal, Retrosaria Rosa Pomar. I went there 2 years ago when we were sailing, and I bought yarn. I don't know what kind it is. I think Beiroa, but I'm not too sure. I bought yarn to make this pullover and I haven't touched it yet. And I think I want to dive into my souvenir projects that I bought while sailing this year. So, and it's still winterish. It's quite cold outside. I had ice on my windows of the car this morning. So I still feel like it's cold enough to start another sweater project. So that's probably what I'm going to do. Yeah, I think by now my coffee is cold. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is, by the way, my favorite mug. This sort of mug is from Dille and Camille. It's a shop that you find here in Germany. Nice big mugs, and usually I warm up the mug with boiling water. Then I put my coffee into it, then put boiled milk into it to make like a latte something. And these are my last cups of pumpkin spice latte. I think I have 2 more to go and then I'm finished. And I told you that I keep seeing like double numbers and signs and robins and stuff. So when I saw this mug, I just had to have it because it reminds me of my love. And I just love these mugs. Yeah, well, I think I'm done. And I see that's like 50 minutes on. It feels great to get back in front of the camera and chat to you. I also saw that I'm close to 700 members of my YouTube channel. Once we reach the 700, I will do another giveaway because I've also been sewing a lot from my Etsy shop, so lots of new stuff. So yeah, stay tuned, give me a thumbs up, write me a comment, send me a like. I would really much appreciate it. And to conclude this, again, I want to thank each and every one of you, of the viewers, or everybody who thought of us, everybody who sent us warm wishes, who supported us mentally with a thumbs up, with a message, with prayers, with everything. From my kids and me, the warmest thank you. And see you next time. Bye.